The sky over the alien world remained quiet as usual, but something strange moved between the thick trees near the edge of the village jungle. It was not one of their own. It was not a beast either. It was the human. He had come from the stars. His ship had fallen from the sky many days ago. He had survived somehow and now walked freely in the wild lands where no one from their kind dared to step. The aliens called themselves the Inari. They were gentle and wise. Their skin was pale like the leaves in cold season, and their eyes were large and always full of fear. The reason for that fear lived deep inside the forest. The beast had many names, but most called it the Droxel. It was the ruler of the land. The eater of flesh, the breaker of bones, the killer of all. The Inari had seen many brave ones vanish in the jungle. None returned. The human named Mason had no fear in his eyes. He had no wings, no armor, no energy field around him. He only had a pack on his back, some tools, and a long metal stick that made fire and noise. The Inari watched him from behind stone walls high above the jungle floor. Their young ones held their breath, their elders stayed silent. They believed this would be the last time they saw the human alive. Mason did not hide. He walked across the mossy ground where even the wind moved. With caution, he looked at the broken trees, the giant claw marks on rocks, the remains of a crushed creature that tried to run once but failed. Still he moved on with calm steps, as if he was not walking toward danger, but toward something familiar. Lara, the youngest among the watchers, kept her eyes locked on the human form. She asked in a low voice why he was not afraid. Her brother said he was foolish. Their mother said he was brave but doomed. The elder shook his head and said no one fights the Droxel and lives. Not even the sky people. The human will become part of the forest floor like the rest. But Mason kept walking. He reached a river where the water ran deep and cold. There he paused and looked around. His eyes scanned the trees, the ground, the air. He touched the mud with his fingers, then stood and moved again. Not random steps, but with purpose, as if he already knew the land better than those born on it. Sun began to fall behind the tall cliffs, casting long shadows across the valley. The jungle started to change. Strange cries echoed between the branches. Birds flew away. Small creatures hid. And the watchers knew the beast had awakened. The ground gave a soft rumble. The trees shifted. Then it came. The Droxel. It was larger than memory, larger than fear. Its body covered in thick dark plates, its tail like a whip, its mouth wide with teeth long as blades. 2 red eyes burned under the low light. The forest held its breath. So did the watchers. The human did not run. He stood there, eyes fixed on the monster. He placed his bag on the ground, pulled out a long stick with sharp points tied at the end. He also pulled out a flat round object and placed it behind him, then began to walk slowly toward the beast. The Droxel roared. The sound rolled like thunder across the jungle. Birds shot from the trees. Even the Inari watchers stepped back in fear. The human stood firm. The beast rushed forward, tearing trees from its path. Still Mason walked forward. His eyes never blinked. His hands did not shake. The watchers whispered among themselves. Some said he was mad. Others said he had a death wish. Lyra said nothing. She only stared when the beast came near. The human jumped aside, rolled across the ground, and stood behind a fallen log. He did not attack. He watched. The beast turned again. It charged. Again Mason moved aside just in time. Again and again. He moved like water, fast and calm and smart. Each move showed something to him. The way the beast turned, the delay in its back leg, the slight weakness in its left side, the way it roared before it struck. He was learning. The watchers did not understand. They thought this was luck. They thought his fire stick had failed, or he had no more tools. They could not see what he saw then. He ran not away, but into the deeper jungle. The beast followed. The watchers lost sight of him. Trees blocked the view. The jungle swallowed both hunter and hunted. For a long while there was only silence. Then a flash, then another rumble, followed by a sharp cracking sound, then silence again. Inari stood frozen. What had happened? Did he fall? Did he survive? No one knew. Lyra held her breath, her fingers clutching the stone edge of the lookout point. Night fell. The jungle returned to its sound, but the watchers could not sleep. They had seen something they never expected, a human walking into death. Without fear, a human who faced the Droxil, a human who may still be standing the next morning, came with cold wind and low sky. Mist covered the valley, and trees looked like tall ghosts. The Inari watchers stood on the high ledge again, waiting in silence. No sound came from the jungle below. No sign of the human, no sign of the Droxil. Just stillness and fog. Lyra sat near the edge with her eyes fixed on the jungle. Her heart felt heavy with questions. Was the human gone like all the others before him? Was the beast still alive and hunting in silence? Her brother said they should stop watching. Their mother said hope was a soft thing that breaks easy. The elder kept quiet. Suddenly the trees moved. A figure stepped into view. It was the human. He walked slowly across the green ground. His clothes torn, his arm wrapped in cloth made from his shirt. His pack was gone, but in one hand he held a strange curved stick, and in the other a rope made from jungle vines. His walk looked tired, but his eyes stayed sharp. Gasps rose among the watchers. Lyra stood at once. She could not believe it. The human had returned from the place no one escaped. He had faced the beast, and now stood alive under the morning sky. Her brother whispered, maybe the beast let him go. The elder said beasts do not show mercy. Something had changed. The human did not stop near the village. He went deeper into the valley. He searched for wood stones, sharp bones from fallen animals. He placed strange objects on the ground, some near trees, some near rocks. He bent branches, tied things, hung vines in ways the Inari could not understand. Watchers could see his hands move like a builder, like a thinker, like someone who had done this many times before. His work looked simple but carried strange purpose. Hours past the sun climbed higher. Sweat ran down the human's face, but he did not stop. He built traps. He made a pit using leaves and sticks to hide a deep hole between two tree roots. He covered it with mud and moss. He tied sharp bones into bundles and placed them inside the pit. He used glowing sap from a broken plant to mark nearby trees for his own eyes. Then he moved on. He carved symbols into stones. He built walls from fallen branches. He placed rocks in rows. Like a path for something large to follow, he created a maze. The Inari had never seen anything like it. Oh, then the jungle was full of fear and death. To the human it was a puzzle, a living place that could be shaped, bent, used. The beast's roar did not come until the light began to fall again. It started as a deep growl from the far side of the valley, then rose into a full cry that shook the branches and scattered the birds. The watchers pulled back in fear. Lyra did not move. She kept her eyes on the human, who had now climbed up into a thick tree near the trap zone. The Droxil appeared, massive and dark, with glowing red eyes and fresh scars across its left leg. Blood trailed behind it. The beast looked angry, more wild. Then, before the human stayed hidden but ready, the beast smelled the air, stepped forward one heavy foot at a time, walked toward the first trap. Suddenly a loud crack filled the air. A branch snapped, and a bundle of bones dropped from above, swinging across and hitting the beast on the side. The Droxil roared in rage. It turned quickly and charged into the treason. Another trap sprung. A rope caught its leg and pulled it sideways, causing it to stumble into a wall of thorned branches placed there by the human earlier. The beast howled again, but it was not done. It tore through the branches with claws sharp as blades. The Inari watchers could not believe their eyes. The beast looked smaller, now not in size, but in power. The human was changing the fight, not with strength, but with mind. Trap after trap slowed the beast, cut its legs, blinded its eyes with sap, burned its skin with fire made from local oil and spark stone. Still it did not fall. Human climbed down from the tree and began to run between the rocks, leading the beast into the last Trap a narrow canyon between two cliffs, only one way in or way out. The Droxel followed, its eyes burned. With hate the watchers lost sight of both again. But they heard the sounds crash, roar, slam, then nothing. The night fell again. No return this time. No figure walking out from the jungle, only silence. The Inari did not sleep. They waited, hearts full of wonder, fear, and questions. Was the human gone? Now had the beast taken him at last, or had he done what none before could do? Lyra closed her eyes and whispered into the wind, "If he lives, we must know his name. If he falls, we must remember his courage. And if he wins, then maybe we were never as weak as we thought." Darkness held the jungle like a cold hand. No birds sang, no insects buzzed, no wind moved the trees. The Inari stood together on the high ledge, watching the forest below with wide, quiet eyes. Their breaths stayed soft, their hearts beat like drums inside cages of fear and wonder. A sound came low and strange, not the roar of the beast, not the call of the wild. It was metal scraping against stone, a slow dragging noise followed by the crunch of broken leaves. The watchers leaned forward. Something was moving. Then a shape appeared between the trees, tall, bent, bleeding, but still standing. It was the human. He stepped out from the mouth of the narrow canyon, pulling something behind him with the last strength in his arms. A long rope made from jungle vines stretched behind him. Tied to the rope was the body of the beast. The Droxel, its head hung low, its legs no longer moved, its mouth opened, but gave no sound. Human had won. He had done what no one believed could be done. He had brought down the alpha predator. The watchers did not speak for a moment. Time stopped. The elder dropped his staff. The mother covered her mouth. The brother fell to his knees. Lyra stood without words. Tears formed in her eyes, but not from sadness, from something else, something new. The human reached the edge of the clearing, then let go of the rope and dropped to his knees. His breath came slow and deep, his body covered in mud, blood, and sweat. He looked at the watchers, not with pride, not with victory, but with calm. The Inari moved down from the ledge slowly, step by step, unsure if the ground under their feet was real, unsure if the moment was a dream. They reached him. No words passed between them. One elder touched the beast with shaking fingers to make sure it was real. Another touched the human's shoulder and nodded. They built a fire. They placed the body of the Droxel upon it. As the flames rose and smoke curled toward the stars, human sat by the fire, staring into the light. The Inari sat with him for the first time, not as watchers, not as hidden eyes behind rocks, but as people beside him. Lyra sat closest. She asked how he had done. I answered, not with long tales or proud shouts, only with truth. He spoke of study, of watching, of patience. He had learned the beast's pattern. He had found its weakness. He had let it follow him step by step into the place where it could not escape. He had not fought with strength, but with thought. The Inari listened, and for the first time in many seasons they saw something change in themselves. The fear that had ruled them began to break. The night past, stars moved across the sky. The beast's body turned to ash in the morning. The human stood again, his body weak, but his eyes bright. He looked to the forest, not with hate, not with pride, but with respect. He had not come to rule the land. He had come to survive, and he had done so without losing what made him human. Inari gave him food, water, fresh cloth made from jungle threads. They gave him space to rest under the old tree they once called the Tree of Sorrow. Now they called it the Tree of Fire. Lyra asked if he would stay. The human said he did not know. He had come from the stars, and the stars still called to him, but he would not forget this place, nor the people who watched him fall into the mouth of death and rise again. The elder spoke to the others. They must not forget. They must tell the young ones the full tale, not just of the beast, but of the human who made fear bend. The name of the Droxel would not bring silence anymore. Now would bring memory of courage. The Inari walked into the jungle later that day, not with shaking hands, not with quiet feet. They walked tall. They marked paths. They studied the land. They watched like the human had watched. They began to learn, and in that learning something powerful was born. Not violence, not war, but freedom, a small kind of strength that grows with each breath. All Because one human saw the beast not as a god, but as a challenge, and met it not with fear, but with fire clouds, moved slowly across the sky while smoke from the fire still danced above the trees. The ashes of the Droxel lay cold now, scattered near the edge of the jungle, yet no one in the valley could feel at rest. Even though the great beast had fallen, something in the air told the Inari that the danger was not over. The human stood near the ash pit, staring into the distance. His body still carried wounds, but his spirit remained steady. The Inari watched him with respect, but also with concern. Something had changed inside him. His eyes looked far beyond the trees, as if listening to a voice they could not hear. Lyra stepped close to him and asked what troubled him. He pointed toward the dark line of trees beyond the river and said the Droxel was not the only one. There were more deeper in the jungle, maybe 3, maybe more. He had seen the tracks while setting his traps. He had hoped they would not follow. But now he felt they would come. The elder heard his words and felt fear return. If more beasts were coming, what hope did they have? The traps were broken, the weapons few. The human had fought with his mind and his will, but could he do it again? Mason looked toward the jungle once more, then walked away without a word. He returned with his bag, now patched with vine thread. From inside he pulled pieces of metal, broken tools, wires, stones that spark fire. He laid them out on a flat rock and began to work. The Inari gathered around him, curious and quiet. His hands moved with purpose, his eyes focused. He cut, shaped, bent, and tied. He created strange forms from simple things. A long stick with fire holes, a net with bone spikes, a small box that made light when tapped with stone. He taught the watchers how to use each one. He showed them how to hold the stick, how to throw the net, how to place the light box near a path to confuse beasts at night. Then he spoke. This fight was not his alone. This world was not his home. If they wished to protect their land, they must now stand with him. Not behind walls, not behind fear. Beside him. Lyra stepped forward first and took the fire stick. Her brother followed and picked up the spike net. One by one others joined. The elder spoke no words, but his eyes said enough. He placed his walking staff aside and picked up a stone blade. Jungle began to whisper. The wind turned cold, birds flew high, leaves shook, though no one touched them. Then came the sound, not one roar, but many, far off but growing closer. The watchers looked to the trees. The sound rolled like thunder, low and deep. The beasts were coming. Mason led the Inari into the valley. They moved fast with no panic. They placed traps again with better skill now. They sharpened stones, tied ropes, hung nets, covered pits. They spread the fire oil across dry leaves and placed spark stones in key places. The jungle was not their enemy anymore. It had become their ally. As the sun dropped, red light covered the ground. Then came the first shadow. The second beast stepped into the open, tall and wide, with longer claws and darker hide. Behind it, 2 more followed. The Inari held their ground. Mason raised his hand and gave no command, just a silent nod. The traps sprang into action. Flames rose from dry leaves, catching one beast by surprise. It screamed and charged, but ran straight into a spike wall. Another beast turned and tried to circle, but fell into a hidden pit lined with sharp stones. Third one leaped over a trap and reached the defenders. It knocked down one Inari, but before it could strike again, Mason hit it with the fire stick. The sound cracked the air, and the beast screamed in pain. Lyra threw the spike net. It caught the creature's back and held it long enough for others to strike with stones and blades. Battle felt like forever. Screams, fire, smoke, pain, blood, but not Fernet this time. The Inari stood. They fought. They worked together, and when the last beast fell, the jungle grew quiet again. No roar, no growling wind in the trees, and breath in tired lungs. Mason walked among the fallen beasts. He checked the traps, the wounds, the land. He saw not victory but change. These people were no longer the same. They had faced death and stayed strong. Lyra stood beside him with hands shaking, not from fear but from fire inside. She looked around. at her people and spoke loud and clear. We were always watchers, now we are something more now. We know we can fight now, we know we can win. The elder walked forward and placed his hand on the human's shoulder. You have shown us what we forgot, that the mind can be a weapon, that courage can rise in silence, that even the darkest fear can fall. Mason gave a small nod and looked once more at the stars above. Night held no monsters, now only stars, and hope. Morning broke with golden light falling across the valley. Smoke no longer rose from broken trees. The jungle no longer echoed with cries of beasts. Silence filled the air, but it was not silence of fear. It was the calm that follows a long storm. The Inari walked through the forest paths with eyes wide open, no longer hiding behind stones, no longer stepping back from shadows. Human stood near the same tree where he once built his first trap. His hands now held tools made by both human and Inari hands. His body still carried cuts, his arms still wrapped in cloth, but his spirit stood tall. The Inari had changed. They no longer watched from behind walls. They moved through the jungle with new eyes. They placed markers across the land, built rope bridges over rivers, carved safe paths between cliffs. Small groups began to explore deeper parts of the forest where before none dared go. The beasts had not returned. The valley felt lighter. The elder called for a gathering near the firestone where the Droxel ash still lay. All came, young and old, strong and weak. Lyra stood with her people beside the human. No fear, no silence, no doubt. The elder raised both hands and spoke to all. He told of days before the fire, before the traps, before the stranger from the stars. He spoke of how they once believed the jungle ruled them, how they once thought fear was forever. Then he spoke of the human who did not run, the one who walked into the heart of the beast and came back. Lyra stepped forward and told of what she had seen. She spoke of how the human did not use power from the sky, did not call down fire from ships. He used only his eyes, his hands, his mind. He watched, he waited, he learned. Then he acted. And by acting he changed everything. The human did not speak long. He said only this: your land is your own, now hold it, know it, protect it, and never fear it again. The gathering lit a new fire, a fire not for burning beasts, but for marking a new beginning. They placed stones around it, each with a symbol carved by one Inari hand and one human hand. The days that followed brought more change. Small shelters were built deeper in the forest. The Inari no longer stayed in one place. They began to move, explore, understand. Mason helped them build water tools, food traps, healing kits from jungle roots. He showed how to mix oils, how to clean wounds, how to store light in crystal jars. His knowledge did not rule them, it lifted them. Lyra learned fast. She became a guide for others. Ones followed her path as she taught them how to walk with courage, how to listen to the wind, how to see with purpose. One day, Mason stood alone at the top of the cliff where his ship had fallen. Wreck lay quiet, now part of the earth, vines climbing over its sides, birds nesting in its broken frame. He looked to the sky. He held a small light in his hand, blinking slow and soft, a signal to passing ships. Maybe one would come, maybe no. No longer waited with need. He had found something here that mattered more than escape, belonging, not as a ruler, not as a hero, but as a part of something new. Later that night, Lyra found him still looking up. She asked if he missed the stars. He said yes. I no longer run from the ground under my feet. She smiled and said the jungle still sings, but now it sings for us, not against us. They sat beside the fire where once only fear had lived. Now warmth rose from it. Real warmth, not just from flame, but from hearts that had found strength in each other. Next sunrise came brighter than any before. Children ran through the trees, laughing without fear. Mothers worked beside sons, fathers learned from daughters. The Inari had become more than survivors. They had become guardians of their own story, and at the center of that story was a moment when one human chose not to ruin. A moment when eyes watched not with hope, but with doubt, and saw something they never expected. A man who walked into the shadow and taught them how to walk through it too. From that day forward, the fire never went out, not the one built from wood, not The one inside their hearts. They had learned that the jungle could be dark, but the mind, the will, the spirit could always be brighter. And so the story ended not with silence, but with footsteps. Brave, strong, free. The end.